And we're back with some even shinier Dyson Sphere Program. I think they've done an update or something, or maybe it's because I went to Windows 11. I'm not sure, but this is the statistics panel now. They've made it more confusing. Well, at least at first. Basically, all you're looking at is the stuff down here. This is how much we're producing, and this is how much we're consuming, and this is the reference rate. They've introduced reference rate now, this is what you should be producing if all your buildings were going at maximum speed. Which, if we chuck it down to the last minute, I've been ironing out some production kinks, and yes, we're producing 1,350 science per minute on this planet out of a potential 1,350. That's because we have 3 of these builds running. 3 of our little black box science builds, they each produce 450 science per minute, and I have been ironing out a lot of kinks. There was, you end up with these weird little problems that you never saw coming. Like, when we pasted it, this belt was continued straight on here and then took a right, and it interfered with this one, which caused this belt not to complete, which meant none of this was delivered. There was a few little quirks like that, though after 2 prints I think we're good. So we're going to plop this down. Oh. And we'll just line it up on the corners there. I was going to make this a pie slice one, but I decided, you know what, it's not worth it. We can just place these down. We'll lose a few tiles here and there, but it's not the end of the world. Plus, we just get to... We don't have to worry about where the mining goes. I'll cover more on the mining in a minute because we're going to have to... Well, we're going to have to install a lot of mining to support our potential production. Also, I made some mistakes with my numbers. You know, the usual stuff, so we'll have to revise those as well. In the meantime, we'll start this build up and we'll see if we encounter any problems. If we do, I'll show you how I try and mitigate them. Relatively quick, we have some built-in battlefield analysis stations to assist with the production. It's not perfect, but it definitely allows us to chuck them down really quickly. And then over here, we've got all of the resources coming in. The big complicated one, of course, is hydrogen. This can back up and cause us all sorts of problems. So what I want to see this time is, does the hydrogen back up? Last times it backed up, but that's because there was a problem with the fire ice line, or not the fire ice line, the graphene line, which meant the hydrogen backed up before the graphene could be spent. Let's see. Now, people were concerned that pumping this directly into this logistics station would cause issues. I mean, technically, yes, it could. So what we did was we pumped it around this way, and we feed it on where the hydrogen coming from all of our waste products, as in fire ice, photons, oil, all that stuff, the hydrogen we're trying to burn off first so it doesn't back up in the machines and clog off, is priority fed this direction. That means we burn it off before we take in any of the stuff we're dragging from abroad. Another wonderful thing that was pointed out in the comments was this assembler down here had an issue. It had no output. It had 2 inputs but no output, and this was noticed in the comments. I was kind of shocked. Like, people sometimes pay way too much attention. You people are way too observant. Alright, as well as that, I was short a lab here. I had 9 labs instead of 10 for the red science, and that was slowing down our production a bit as well. But assuming there is no blockages, problems, backlogs, broken transport belts, or anything like that involved anywhere, this should just slot in and go up to... No, 1,710? No, it should be a rounding of 50s. What's going on? Are we missing a lab? I think we've cracked it. Letting them all spin up for a while. We've now got a production rate of 1,800 per minute, which is exactly where it's supposed to be. Every single one of them is running at full tilt. I haven't touched them in ages just to make sure. And the thing is, it does take a while for them to spin up. They'll get up to about 1,700 or so. But then what happens is it takes a while for the graphene to backlog. I really thought there was something wrong with it, but it turns out this graphene gets fed into 2 processes. One is the pink crystal things over here, the pink particle containers. So the pink particle containers soak up most of the early graphene, and then it kind of backlogs on the lines when a trickle manages to overflow. And then until the pink particle containers backfill everything else, we then end up with enough graphene feeding these things, which are the Casimir crystals, which means it puts a little bit of a kibosh on the plane filters, which means the plane filters are a bit slow, which means you run a little bit low on green research at the start. But you give it like 20 minutes and it all evens out. So we have a perfectly functional science build, and that's churning us out a nice 1,800 per minute. In fact, let me just check down one more real quick. Once that spins up, that'll be 2,250 research per minute for this singular planet, which is quite nice. In fact, we're going to go back and delete our old science build just to free up frames. But first, a little bit of a demonstration of what our mining plan is to feed our continuously growing research abomination. Just before we get onto the mining, I think we finally, we've dipped below 1% ore loss mining. So normally, like when you start off, you lose 100% of what you mine. If you mine 100 ore disappears from the stack. Now it's 1 ore will disappear for every 100 ore we mine, and we mine 8.5 times faster. Ridiculous. And that's just as we get our science starting to roll. So, mining. That all comes down to, well, the numbers, realistically. Now, okay, I'll give this in black and white, but it's pretty simple. Basically, silicon. That is your biggest consumer. So, if we land on any planet and we're going to put down science labs, we're going to go around the equator, and the only things we'll pave over are things that are not essential. But silicon, we're going to want to keep, because it's good. Iron is also our second most useful item. Copper comes third, then titanium, then coal. But stone you need a small amount of, and there's plenty of it around. So as long as there's a bit of stone above the equator lines, we'll use the stone up there. Like you can see, there's stone veins over there. So any stone we find around the equator, we just paved over. Titanium, copper, and iron we tried to keep, preferably the iron. But I'll pave over some copper if there's lots of copper on a planet. But say there's a few rare items that are stuck in this build. Say fire ice. Well, that's coming from gas giants. We don't care if it's on a planet or not. Gas giants it is. Deuterium, that comes from gas giants as well. Stalagmite crystals, that comes specifically from a water planet that's in this, well, near this planet sector. So we're getting all of it from there. Fractal silicon comes specifically from a planet. We're going to like harvest all of that as well, because these are rarer resources. Well, I wouldn't say they're rare. They're very convenient, and they cut down on some complications. Coal I try and get enough of, and oil, well, oil we basically get from any planet that's out there that's got oil. You find an oil planet and you just tap every single patch of oil on it. You're not going to waste any of that stuff. Then you've got your grading crystal. We've made sure to set up near a planet that's got grading crystal, so we'll be importing from there. Stone we don't care about. Kimberlite ore, yeah, we've got a planet for kimberlite ore nearby. Titanium ore we get locally and from any other planets, well, anything above the equator as well. Organic crystal, we have a planet for that as well. Water, we have a planet for that as well. So you basically, half of the job was picking a good system. So that is why we're here. We're literally right beside an ice giant. So that means we've got lots of fire ice, just more than we're ever going to need, theoretically. We've got plenty of silicon in this sector. We've got plenty of copper, iron, all of that stuff. So we can just fill all these planets with science. And then if we look around in the local sector, one second while I rotate this up a bit. Over here is our graviton lenses system. So that's already tapped into for mining, and we don't even need all the stuff that's been mined there. So any excess, iron, copper, all of that stuff can be exported. It's also got the kimberlite ore we need. Over here we've got another fire ice giant, but that's mostly fed into solar sails that we are no longer using. So that's a nearby fire ice giant we can use to feed into fire ice in the system. Here we've got our fractal silicon, a bunch of other stuff we can get. We've also got our sulfuric acid, hydrogen deuterium from a gas giant. This is our stalagmite crystal planet, so all the stalagmite crystals we're ever going to need are going to come from there. It also got lots of crude oil, so that will also come from there. And then finally we've got our gradle crystal, and more kimberlite ore. And where was our organic crystal? Oh wow, I just realized proliferate prime is probably the closest large stockpile at 22 million. I'm sure I figured all of this stuff out earlier, but there is a couple of closer stashes. We've got some at Dyson ships here, which is about 3 or 4 million. And then at, where is it? Antimatter cells production, we've also got a bunch of organic crystal. Now, all of those are tapped into already, so they're feeding us for now. And actually, yeah, so is proliferate prime. So all of those are tapped into. Yeah, was I going to get more? You know what? It's fine. Now what we need to do is improve performance a bit. We've got plenty of science coming in from these, and I'm going to stack onto them even more. And basically I want to finish off the mining in this sector, but before I do, let's go over here to Remote Mall. Remote Mall is built-in system, and it was namely because we were shipping resources all the way from the literal opposite side of the galaxy to, well, provide resources for our construction projects. That takes a little bit of time. And I thought, why? Why not just do one project on this side of the galaxy, and then we'll never have to do it again? Well, we can import stuff from closer by. So right over here,
warp engine deactivated.
The blueprint we used the last day that we pulled off the blueprint website basically is another mall. Where did I put it? Here we are.
Cruise ended.
Which means we can land down here, Pop over close by, and you'll notice all the ships are swarming out to us. They're all the little fidget spinner thingy mobobs. And that tops us all up on the resources we need, and then we can go off and just plop down more science builds. So the plan would be, we're going to start filling up this system with science builds. We want to do about 80,000. Well, preferably you want to go up to 100,000 science at the end of the day, but we're going to go to about 80,000 because I did some bad numbers on what we need the Dyson Sphere. So once we got about 80,000 science, we'll have to go back and build another Hellraiser planet that's going to suck down photons from Big Blue. Where's he? Yeah, over there. So we need to put down a second Hellraiser planet to get all the photons we're going to need. But that's fine. That is fine. We'll also probably have to increase the amount of antimatter we're producing. Yep, we won't worry about that. If we can't fit them all in this system, then all we'll do is we'll pop over to, say, what's another close-by system? Yeah, over here. How many planets you got? Ugh, no, not enough. There we go. Fire Ice solar sails. We'll plop down a mole on one of these planets, and then once the mole's down, we'll let it stockpile for an hour, and then we'll use the stockpile to create to basically fill the whole sector with science builds, if we need to. But for now, okay, I'll just finish topping up on resources. But once you finish topping up on resources, it's time to head back to the opposite side of the galaxy, hopefully for the last time in a long time. Reason being is, where is it? Way, way over there we have New Core. And in New Core, we have an entire planet that's just dedicated to, where is it? This one over here, smelting. It needs to go. We don't need it anymore. Proliferate planet can probably go. Stalagmite planet will probably keep, and everything else is going to go as well. We can basically wipe out all of these because we've got everything we need. One other suggestion that keeps coming up is we stop farming the dark fog because we don't realistically need it anymore. Which, yes and no. Every time we stick down one of these malls, we're going to need to stock it up on dark fog matrix and all of these things so that we can churn out self-evolution labs, negatropy smelters, and recomposing assemblers. All of these final stage stuff, which is basically all of our builds. So I don't want to shut down the dark fog things. They're taking up not a ginormous amount of resource or performance. That's the entire combat system right there. It's 2.6. It's not negligible, but it's definitely not enough that I'd like to turn it off just yet. Maybe at the end, once we've got all the science built out, we want to try and squeeze out a few more frames. But for now, I think it's we're going to need it, especially if we build another mall. We're going to need to stock it up. All right, let's go clean out that old system. This here is our old science build, churning out a consistent 1,000 science per minute. Well, it was. We just turned it off. We've basically cut the science feed into this. I mean, it's 1,000 science per minute. So that's 2.5 of our new builds, and this thing requires like a lot of infrastructure because it's using the old designs. However, I am going to leave the antimatter hooked up. That antimatter is actually required for making some of the high-end plasma shots. We don't need a lot of them, but I think having a stockpile of antimatter sitting around can't be too problematic. Then we can just start demolishing the rest of this stuff. We don't need it anymore. This here is the mall. That's up and running fine. This here is harvesting photons that we're going to use to make some... we'll probably get rid of that later, but for now I can see up. There's a few towers I left because, well, they have expensive stuff in them that hasn't been drawn down anywhere else. But by and large, this place has been mostly picked clean. Left the mines there, of course. That's one place down, but I think the next one up is going to be... Where are you? Smelter World. Now, the smelter world is pretty much covered in smelters, and we no longer need it, which means we can free up an awful lot of resources. Actually, let's have a quick check on the statistics when we get there, and then see what the statistics look like after we get rid of this factory planet. This here is the factory world. Well, smelter world. This took a while to build and design, but all of this can now be crammed into, like, 2.5 of those black box science builds. Think about that. Tech just cripples in this game. It just makes everything else seem useless. Although, this turret defense, we're going to leave those rings here. Might as well keep killing the baddies while we're about. Alright, first up, performance test. Right now, all production lines are drawing about, 50%? So 51 to 52% on the production lines, which I presume is all the factories. Now, these things are not active, so I don't know how much of an effect this is going to have, but it's going to be a case of doing some horrifying work. We're going to be doing the whole bye-bye everything. Like, all the work you put into this just all gone. It feels wrong. But it needs to be done. Alright, let's get to it. Stripped clean. All gone. We just left the mines in place, and I set up some transport towers, logistics towers, to export those resources elsewhere. However, when it comes to CPU usage, still looking at, well, actually, we've dropped maybe a percentage point. It's now down to 50 to 51%. Oh, that's not a lot, considering how much we destroyed. Might also have something maybe to do with all of those turrets sitting around the place. You know what? Doesn't matter. Now let's go wipe out, where is it? There was a proliferator planet here. Yeah, we should probably get rid of that as well. We don't need it anymore. Oh, I think I may have already deconstructed all of that stuff. Well, looks like we're not making any savings here. This oil well is spitting out like 1,500 oil per minute, or was. I think the line is now backed up. That's ridiculous. We have such mining efficiency bonuses. These oil wells can just spew out ginormous amounts. I was worried about how oil was going to work out, but it seems we don't have to care. Anyway, time to clean up this planet and get rid of some of the junk on it. Having roved extensively across our new core system, well, it's not new core anymore, it's old core, I suppose. Actually, that might be an idea to rename it. We've basically strip mined out everything and just turned it all into mining, which I'm not even sure it was worth it. Might have been better just to destroy it entirely. It's just we don't need it. That place is trash. We're never going back there. There's acid supply there, but we've got another acid source over closer to where we're supposed to be. I suppose Proliferator Prime and Antimatter. Oop, Antimatter cells and Proliferator Prime. I should have a quick pop over to those and make sure we've got enough power and antimatter going to be coming in for our massive building spree that we're about to partake in. The blueprint tool has been vastly upgraded. It looks awesome. And they've got these things that gives you notifications exactly where your overlaps are going to be. So I can see here there's just going to be a few problems with power poles on this build, but, well, we don't care, so we'll plop it down anyway. But they've definitely made some quality of life improvements to the blueprint tool that I quite enjoy. Alright, let me just finish this out. This should give us enough power to put together what we're trying to build. From then on in, it should be all down to science. Actually, nope. First proliferate, then science. One thing I'd also like to test out while we're on the antimatter fuel rod production planet is a blueprint sent in by Morogi. They sent me in one that has a few options to it. Where is it? Ah, this one. Yeah, this can do strange matter and antimatter. Rotate that around, and let's try lining this up. I'm going to assume that it fits in the same as other ones. Yeah, right on. Boom. There'll be a few collisions between my power poles, which are never aligned perfectly for some reason. Don't ask me why. It doesn't seem to come with its own power supply, so we'll have to build that in. But everything else looks to be grand. Alright, I'll have to get a few other bits and bobs to finish it off. Oh, wait, I don't have any... Why would I carry around liquid tanks? Who carries around liquids? I'll figure something out. We collected up some raw iron, copper, stone, and we manually crafted the last bits and bobs, like the liquid tanks and that, what is this thing over here called? Traffic sorter? Traffic monitor? Traffic monitor. No idea what this is set up to do, but we'll worry about that later. Let's just finish this out and see what the build does. Okay, that is one way to spread out the proliferate. That is a lot of proliferate stacking towers. What is... No, I'm gonna let it finish before I start trying to analyze this. Trying to analyze it before it's finished. Nope, that'll just... That's Wabelize madness. Alright, let's have a look, see what we got here. Anyway. Raw iron, raw copper, proliferated. Okay, magnets from iron, iron plates from iron, copper comes down, gives you the copper plate. You're going to give us 3 levels here. You got your copper, you got your iron, and you get your magnets. All 3 of them are going to get proliferated at the end. Then they rotate around and into... Okay, they go into splitters. Then the splitters spit out the copper backwards. They also... split at the magnets somehow. The magnets come up here. Okay, yeah. That means this layer is quite tall, but none of them are actually stacked. And you see that there's green circuits here. That means the green circuits are being produced further on down the line and then being brought back here. So this isn't from left to right. There is some cross-pollination going on here between later lines and these lines. So down here we've got your silicon, your steel, your gear. So level 2 basically processing. Yeah, iron and copper, the magnets. Silicon is going up to the top and back around again. That's the only way you can make these, is if you get the silicon. And since the silicon is made on this line, that means it's popping out here, passing through a proliferator, going into a splitter, And then getting popped up top here and brought all the way back to make those blue circuits. That is quite the compression. And processors as well, which means those blue microcrystalline chips, I'm not following it, but those things are going out there all the way to the end, getting proliferated and rotating back around and coming back out on this line here, where they then get fed into the processors. Green circuits as well are doing the same thing. And we got a lot of fire ice graphene. Like, that is a lot of the stuff. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16 fire ice. Then you've got only 3 titanium? I suppose there's not a lot of titanium required for this. Then you got your motors, then you got your carbon nanotubes. Surprised you're not using stalagmite crystals for that. I suppose they are rare, so yeah, this is very robust, goes with very basic resources. Sulfur, sulfuric acid, titanium ingots, steel beams, more motors. They're the regular motors. Then you get your pink crystals. So, going with the pink particle containers, not using unipolar magnets, I approve. Unipolar magnets are a little bit rare. Just if you want to go big, unipolar magnets, you need a lot of them. Yeah, what have we got here? There's your photons, and that's a lot of photon splitters. Yeah, they are the biggest part of this whole build. You'll notice, yeah, like this is one of my builds over here. They basically take up massive amounts of space. Okay, how is he getting all of the resources in it? Okay, so there's 3 belts in the middle of each one. And then this, okay, this is fun. We have here pink particle containers. They come down, they get fed in, they go up, they come down, they get fed in. Wait, what? Okay, so they're rotating around, going up and down for each one, and at the same time, there's another one being fed in from this side. What, like the outputs are being fed out through here. That's where the green particle containers come out, and then they go back up the line. Because, well, this thing needs 3 resources. Pink particle containers, all of which are coming in on this side here. Then it's also going to need iron plate and deuterium. The iron plate and deuterium come in from the front too, get fed in, and then the output goes out the side here. So that's the output. So 2 in the front, 1 in the side, and 1 out the other side. All the way along. That's going to save at least a line or 2 of space. Oh, yeah, then you get the spheres. What do you call them? Annihilation constraint spheres. Then you get your recomposing assemblers, putting out the antimatter fuel rods. And then at the end, this is the bit that makes this build very interesting. It has the option of doing strange annihilation fuel rods. That's where you take the blank the antimatter fuel rods, and you combine them with the orangey things, the core elements you get from killing the dark fog. And that gives you strange annihilation fuel rods, which are quite power intensive. Like, they produce a lot of power. However, you're going to need frame material and strange matter on top of that to make them, which makes them a little bit expensive and difficult to make. But this seems to be able to do both of them, and yeah, there seems to be plenty coming in here. Alright, is it actually making them, though? Oh my god, I can't believe I didn't know this. You can put tags on things. That is a tag. You can tag belts. Oh, that would make designing these so much easier. You could just go, hey, that is pink particle containers. And now you can see when you blueprinted it that, oh, how am I only finding this out now? It's fine. It's fine. Okay. So, this is not working because there does not seem to be pink particle containers getting to the recomposing assemblers that are producing the annihilation constraint spheres. They should be coming along this belt. This belt here currently has priority access for its input priority. Yeah, they're going out this direction, so that won't start producing until these fill up. These won't fill up until, well, the green particle container is back up. That might take a little while. So the green particle containers are going to come back up here, and it won't be until they reach this point that the pink ones will start coming back. So this is going to take a while to spin up. As well as that, this thing seems to probably be powering itself. Yeah, this build here I think belongs to my old one. Like this demarc point here, this is the end of Morogi's build. A name I'm probably pronouncing incorrectly. Ooh, for a hydrogen disposal, instead of using like a whole bunch of hydrogen generators like I do, like a muppet, stuck in a bunch of miniature particle colliders and they convert them to deuterium, because deuterium's consumed. Ah, Smart plan. That actually takes up less space. Why didn't I think of that and stop being a muppet? So over here you'll notice in my builds I've got a bunch of these hydrogen generators for bleeding off the excess hydrogen. But I could probably cut down on that an awful lot if I just put in a few deuterium... Deuterium? Whatever. If I built in a few of those, we could definitely cut down on the amount of space it requires. And then the deuterium would be consumed by... Wait a minute, what is it that consumed it exactly? Actually, I take it back. There is no deuterium used in the production of antimatter fuel cells. It's only used in the production of the strange annihilation fuel rods because it's required for the strange matter. Ah, that is... Also, I think I figured out some of the differences here, or, well, why the designs ended up so wildly different at times. One, this produces 300 antimatter fuel rods per minute. And the thing is, you got to remember, this is a dual function one. It can also make the strange annihilation fuel rods, so it's got like more than one focus to it. According to the page, it can also produce 37.5 strange annihilation fuel rods per minute, which, what's its consumption rate? Oh, I get it. That will consume all the antimatter fuel rods and pump out exactly 37.5 strange annihilation fuel rods. That is a very neat trick. But only if you have the actual core elements to pump into it. So while this is the exact same size, like this is takes up 10 blocks of square or 100 tiles, with the same 100 tile width as my original design, it produces about 33% less antimatter fuel rods, but it can all be converted over to like the strange annihilation ones. Actually, how much would it require? At maximum throughput, this would take 37.5 of these core elements per minute. I'm not sure how many of those we can make. We've got 56,000 in storage. Production rate is 90 a minute for the last minute. And, well, okay, I just cranked up demand just to see if I can get it. I would be curious to see how much of our stuff we could convert over. I mean, if we could convert everything over, that would be even more interesting and probably a waste of time, but I need to find out right now. So what we're doing here is we are grabbing every single core element we've got scattered around the place. That should mean our dark fog farm should start... Whoa. 1,000? We can produce 1,137 a minute. Huh. Interesting. 37.5. No, I would need to let this stabilize for a bit. Just to be sure. Maybe I'll put down a few more of these. We can scrap it in a bit. After letting this run for a while, we drained out all of the core elements in the system. I should actually just get rid of that again. This meant that our farm planet is currently pulling down or it's just sucking down as much of this strange core element stuff as it possibly can. Now, after running for a bit, like, the problem is it fluctuates a lot. Like here it looks like for the last hour, and you can see it's bouncing up and down like a yo-yo. Best I can figure, it can't really go below about 680, so I took 680 as a baseline. I've been running the numbers on these strange annihilation fuel rods, and the numbers are interesting, though I don't know if it changes. Let me try and explain. These things do give you a power boost. You're basically consuming 8 antimatter fuel rods to make one strange annihilation fuel rod. However, you gain 20% power in the process. Well, you gain it by spending one of these, 2 strange material, and 1 frame material. You can't use any proliferate to help bonus this, so you're basically taking, well, a little bit of extra resources, combining it with the antimatter fuel rods to produce the strange annihilation ones. Now, the strange annihilation ones, they burn twice as bright, and they burn for 250 seconds. It turns out the regular antimatter fuel rods, as pointed out to me, they don't burn for 5 minutes. They actually burn for 50 seconds. Yeah, so it's 50 seconds per antimatter fuel rod in one of these artificial suns. The strange ones burn for 250. But what bonus are you getting? Basically 20%. You get 20% more power out of these than you do, well, over their lifetime, than you would out of the antimatter fuel rods. Which is pretty decent, but not amazing, because you've got to feed in these guys here. These core elements. However, at 680 of these strange core elements, I figured out I could run about 80,000 science per minute and power the whole setup with these strange annihilation fuel rods. That's just the easiest way to explain it is, yes, we've got enough with 680 of those strange core elements coming in from farming that we could effectively convert over our entire base up to about 80,000 science per minute to just running on the strange annihilation fuel rods. But we'd be saving 20% of the photons we're bringing in, which means we could have a 20% smaller Dyson sphere. However, this kind of gets a little... Yes, you get 20% more energy efficiency, but just say you're buying science with it. You're using it to build science. Well, here's the thing. Science takes photons to make. So, just say you wanted to make 1,000 science per minute. That's going to require 800 photons just to make the white science, because it requires photons to build it. And then you're going to have to spend photons on either strange fuel rods or regular fuel rods. Works out you save about 6% in power. Because most of the photons are being soaked up by the science, the power bonus is kind of just almost obliterated. So basically, if you're building these strange annihilation fuel rods, you're saving yourself somewhere between 6% to 20% on the size of the Dyson sphere you need to provide enough photons, depending on how much of your production is going towards science. Yeah, not incredible, I will admit. I thought it would be better than that. But interesting build. If you're doing this from the start, this would be fun for an ultra late game build. Though, I don't think it's worth it. That sounds mean almost, but it's just a case of this design. If you rip out all the strange stuff and you just replace it with the antimatter fuel rods, you'll get out about 50% more antimatter fuel rods, and it's just more compact, so long as you're willing to build a bigger Dyson sphere. However, that bigger Dyson sphere is going to soak up more frames, so if you really want to go ultra big late game, this would actually be probably more efficient. Though you are going to have to run a farm, so is it worth running the farm? But if you're not running a farm, then you'd probably be better doing the antimatter. You know what? They're borderline. I will say they were borderline, and you can go either way depending on what exactly you're trying to do. If you're going to be running a farm constantly, switch to this stuff. If you're going to be switching your farm off, stay on the antimatter fuel rods. That would be my guesstimate. Now, excuse me, where was I? Okay, so I have good news and I have bad news. Some of the good news is, if you watch this, that is so cool. It almost looks like it's breathing. And this one over here is even better. Like, that one there actually pumps all the way along. That looks awesome. But that's not the bad news. No, the bad news is all of this footage from here to here is completely wasted because there's no audio on it. Yeah, it turns out I moved my desk and it jiggled a cable and something came loose and then went back in and then my system never updated. Yeah, but that's the bad news. The good news is we get to speedrun all of the stuff that I did over that time. And a lot happened, and okay, there was a lot of building, but we'll go to that later. First off, I came over to check on our proliferate just to see that we had enough coming through. We did, for now, but I've run the numbers, and the numbers are absolutely horrifying. If we want to do 100,000 science per minute, we will need, drumroll please, 130,000 proliferate per minute. 130,000 per minute. That's a lot. One of these builds here, from, say, that block over there to that edge there, yeah, these ones will produce about 1,904 extra proliferate, because it has to proliferate itself. Oh, and one thing, that 130,000 proliferate, that doesn't include any proliferate we put on our antimatter. And it doesn't include any proliferate we put on our proliferate. But assuming we're just going with bonuses here, that means we will need 68.3 of these. We would round that up to 69, and then we would have enough of them. That's a lot. And to put that in perspective, this entire planet is covered. Well, the equator is, all the way around. There's 24 on this planet. We would need 69 of them, which means we'd need, like, another couple of planets. That might take a while. I think I might actually redesign this in one key way. You see, right now, we're using fire ice. Fire ice is then used, well, the graphene from that is used to make the carbon nanotubes. I think we might switch over to stalagmite crystals for this. We've got our mining efficiency so high that I'm thinking that's probably a good plan. I did the numbers on it and we could still run it for like about 17 days before the universe ran out. Assuming... Never mind. So if we rip that out, then we don't need any of these nodes here, but that also means we don't need that... The waste product from that is hydrogen, which means we can rip out all of these, which means we could compress this down massively and still actually... We could probably fit twice the throughput in this area. But that... we'll come back to more on that in a bit. For now, this is the science planet we left well, what feels like a short while ago, I'm sure. But now it's fully saturated in science production. Each one of those capable of producing 450 science per minute for a total of 7,200. And speed running through this, I would like to point out a few things. One, the fact that this ended up as 720 was a complete accident. This is not a juvenile thing on my part. I couldn't even plan it out that well. It was just 450 science and the amount we could squeeze on. Like, we can't fit in another build in there, okay? It's like, just the way numbers end up, and seems to be the numbers that the internet likes, and you're like, no, that was just random, okay? I swear. But this entire planet, covered in science. Took a while to build it out, but the science build we're using has all the built-in towers that help with the construction of it, so it all worked out, and we even managed to tap into a few of the mining sections. However, well, once that was full, what we did was, well, we popped over to science too. So this one over here does a whole bunch of science as well, not quite as many. I believe this one does 16, this one does 18, or no, wait, that one does 14, that one does 16? Yeah, that one does 14, this one does 16. And between them, that's 30 science builds, which, you know what, 30 science builds is plenty good. I mean, stats-wise, we're looking at about 10.9k science per minute over the last hour. But you got to remember, this stuff needs time to ramp up. Last 10 minutes, we're looking at 13.3k, and last minute, we're looking at about 13.2k. Ooh, we're hitting a bottleneck somewhere in resource production. You know what? Not going to worry about it just yet. However, they definitely have updated the game. And what gave it away was not just this whole new looking shiny thing here. Yeah, I went into research. And I stopped researching nothing but vein utilization upgrades so I could get a couple of extra ones. Namely, I got drone engines. Got a bunch of drone engine upgrades so that we could have faster drones. Our drones now move at a speed of 45 meters per second. Used to be 30. Just made construction quicker. We've also researched a bunch of communication control to add on to the amount of drones we control. We're now up to 30 controllable drones. We're basically becoming a one robot walking machine of construction. And that's when I noticed, what's this? How is there a research I haven't done yet? Because we did all the research ages ago. It's a solar sail attaching speed technology. Remember before, when we were building the Dyson Swarm, or Dyson Sphere, we could only attach 120 solar sails per minute to each node. That would be as if we had unlocked that research. So you're going to start off only being able to attach 15 sails per node. Then you can upgrade it to 30, then 60, then 120, and then 240, finally capping out at 360 solar sails per minute, meaning you can attach solar sails 3 times as fast as you could before. That means you can build a solar sail, the Dyson Sphere 3 times faster, but it will absolutely make your computer cry. Like at 120 solar sails per minute, my computer was crying. I kind of want to make it cry even harder now. But, yeah, maybe later. Maybe later. For now, I want to concentrate more on the science. Also, we will be going back to vein utilization at a later date, but for now, we just wanted to knock out some extra construction stuff because, well, we needed to build a lot of these. We needed to build, I think it's 68. We need to build 68 of these to have enough for, to turn out about 80,000 science. I have a plan for the last 20,000. We will come back to that. That means we're going to need to build, well, a lot more of these on a lot more planets. Oh, and it was about this time you can check out on the universe map. Let's rotate it up. And let's zoom it out a bit. And you notice a pattern there. I noticed that there's a lot of ships heading this direction. And there doesn't seem to be a priority system on mining. So, for example, we have a bunch of mines on this planet, and I think they're barely being touched. And instead, we're importing stuff from halfway across the universe, just because. The game doesn't really seem to prioritize stuff. So, say, for example, give me this copper over here. This thing should be drained empty. Like, it should just be mainlining into all of these buildings. The problem is, these guys will go, oh, just give me a whole bunch of resources from somewhere remote, and that will fill them up instead. Then again, a lot of this stuff can't be obtained here, like organic crystal, water, photons, proliferate Mark III, hydrogen, grading crystals. Oh, we definitely got rocks. Kimberlite ore. There is a bunch that's coming from off-world. But I think the craziest thing about just looking at all of this is I have no idea. I have no idea what half of those are carrying. I've not a clue. Literally, the system has been built, and I don't know what half those ships, or like any of those ships, are carrying. I mean, there's a few there that are a purpley color. I presume they're carrying unipolar magnets. Some of them are different colors. You could probably figure out what they are. But I think the plan would be, or a smarter plan would be, maybe compress everything down, demolish, like get the old core system, rip everything out of entirely, including the mining, and just do the mining here. We don't need a lot. It's just we can mine so efficiently and so quickly, it's ridiculous. This mine produces 3,800 a minute. Wait, how is it fluctuating up and down so much? Oh, yeah, we got control of another drone. Great, or 3 drones. Maybe I'm going crazy here, but I would have assumed this number means it's mining that much a minute. Why is it fluctuating up and down so rapidly? Does it actually slow down the closer it gets to the top and speed up this the more it gets to the bottom? You know what? Doesn't matter. It seems to be fluctuating up and down, but to put this in perspective, 4,200 copper gives you enough copper to run 1,000 science. So for every 1,000 science, we need one of these mines, which means we'd need 100 of these mines to feed... Oh god, I just never thought of it that way. Right, so we are going to need a lot of copper. Huh. Okay, wait, no, wait. We can crank up the speed massively by doing that. And then we can triple it, so we only need a third as much mines. But that requires just an enormous amount of power, so I don't think so. You can see the power draw up here, and then you can see it go up to like about 7 megawatts when we do that. So I'm thinking, yeah, there's definitely like a case of diminishing returns here. As this gets up higher, the power drain like decreases, and as it goes down lower, the power drain increases. So I think it's a bit like the towers. If we're full of resources, it doesn't want any more. Taking that to its logical conclusion, let's see what happens if we place this down now. 9,500. Okay, so one of these can support 2,000 science per minute, which means we only need about 50 of these. Perfect, and that's without any power bonuses or anything like that. Grand so. Oh no. Something's wrong? That's not active. What do you mean there's no proliferate in there? There's literally proliferate passing right through you. Why are you not proliferating? This is affecting... I was wondering why this had some dead science labs on it. Does that mean all of them have the same bug? Please tell me you don't have the same bug. If they all have the same bug, I'll have to go back through all of them and fix it. That would be nightmarish. No, this guy's working fine. All of his plane filters are set up. Okay, I need to go and check some stuff. This is... Okay. Enough of that. It's fine. We're here at the ocean planet because this one has, well, about, 68 million stalagmite crystals, which should be more than enough to feed us all of the proliferate and science we need. I think it works out at about 17 days or something if we just exclusively dedicate all the stalagmite crystals here towards science and proliferate. And we just use all of those recipes, we should be fine. And especially considering we're going to start tucking back into the research again, it'll get even better. I mean, I'm just assuming the numbers we only have 1% mining ore loss, but we're actually down to 0.8, so it'll last longer than that. Also, there is an achievement section in here, and one of the achievements is pave a certain amount of a water planet. Here it is. Use more than 80k foundations on an aquatica. Not a problem. I think what we'll do is we'll pave over this entire planet, and then what we'll do is we'll put down the proliferate on it. And we'll use the new, a newer design that should hopefully be more compact, and we'll try and get the 150k we're going to need. Jesus. No, that's fine. And one of the things that is also coming along very nicely, production-wise, in the last hour, we're at a 13,288 per minute. That should still cap out at 1350, but in the last hour we've done this much, and this controls how much of that metadata you get. Metadata is what you can use to buy research. So when you restart the game, you could buy your way through a bunch of researches so long as you have enough of it. Now, you can see our metadata up here. You can't use metadata you've earned on your own save. You can only use metadata you've earned on a different save. And once you've used it once, you can't use it again. So any metadata I earn on this save, I can spend to buy research on any other save I want. But I can only buy with it once. Then if I get on that new save, I then build up and get a massive base and get loads of metadata. That metadata I can then spend on another save. So it's basically you get it once, you use it once sort of thing, is my understanding of it. And we can actually check how much we've got. For example, this is save 20. You can see down here all the metadata. So white is basically what we care about. That's the white science, and that's how much we could carry on to another save. 2,882 white science, completely free. We could just tack it over to another save. And there's all the red, green, blue, purple, blue, all that stuff. Then if we go to our newest save, we've got 20,000 white science per minute to go with. The reason for that is, well, we are no longer on 1,000 science per minute. We're on 12,004 or whatever. So, yeah, we've got 10 times as much science floating around the place, which means... Oh, and that's one thing I wondered. It seems to be based on an hour of production. So if you just stockpiled an absolutely godlike amount of resources and then started science and did, I don't know, like 1 million science in an hour, would it then go, oh yeah, you've got a stable 1 million science per hour, you're fine? You know what? Let's not worry about it. Big thanks to Morogi for that black box fuel rod design. I think I figured out its purpose, or a really good use for it. Basically compactifying things. Those strange fuel rods, they burn twice as bright. And, okay, you don't need to refuel them as much, but that means on, say, a very space-demanding planet, like our Hellraiser planet, where we're using, where we've got all those Dyson dishes to pull down photons. Well, if we go to that planet and we could basically rip out half the power plants and replace them with the strange matter variants. So on a planet where space is in an absolute premium, those power bills would be absolutely perfect. Also, it's very flexible. Like, even if you don't use the strange fuel or whatever, it'll still start producing antimatter fuel rods once it's backed up as storage. So yeah, I do like the idea of that. If anyone else has got any other good black box designs that might be appropriate for the save, send them on to me. I'd be interested to try them. There's probably only a couple of episodes left. All we're going to do is crank this up to about, well, another 70, 85 or 89,000 science, whatever. We've only got about 80 or 90,000 science to go. My computer may or may not fall over before that, so the number of episodes left will vary depending on how much my computer boils. Anyway, I'm going to cut this out here. I hope you enjoyed it. Good luck.